Hi, ArcfieldWeather.com meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Tuesday, March 7th. Very interesting weather pattern going forward. Basically turns into a colder weather pattern with very strong high latitude blocking. We've talked about this for several days now. Over Greenland, northern Canada, the heights are much higher than normal. The pressures are much higher than normal. That high latitude blocking scenario generally leads to a colder weather pattern in the central and eastern U.S. It certainly allows for farther penetration into the central and eastern states of Canadian cold air masses. At least typically that is the case. And we have a couple of storm threats coming up. One early this weekend and likely a second one early next week. This could bring some accumulating snow to the mid-Atlantic region of the northeast U.S. again, Friday night, Saturday time frame as a possibility, and then early next week. And we'll kind of talk about those possibilities over the next few minutes here. Let's start off by looking at the ensemble run of the European model from 0Z last night with the 500 millibar height anomalies. And here we go. This is the high latitude blocking right here showing up with respect to the anomalies of 500 millibar height anomalies way above normal. You see the scale right here. This is about as high as it gets in terms of being above normal, indicating very strong high pressure over Greenland, northern Canada. And again, that generally leads to a much more favorable atmosphere for pulling cold air down from eastern Canada into the northeastern U.S., into the mid-Atlantic region. Certainly something we haven't seen for the past couple of months. And this kind of a setup generally has an impact for 2 or 3 weeks. And we're right now in the beginning stages of that 2 or 3 week period where I think overall it's a colder weather pattern for much of the nation, and it will remain active as well. You also notice here higher heights than normal over the southern U.S. This has been the location for what's typically referred to as a southeastern U.S. ridge. Very persistent over the past couple of months. That has helped to keep the southeastern U.S. warmer than normal, and certainly has helped to keep the mid-Atlantic region, even the northeast U.S., warmer than normal on average over the past couple of months. There certainly have been some short cold air outbreaks, but this has been a dominant feature. Watch what happens in coming days to not only this high pressure ridge over the southern U.S., but the persistence of that high latitude blocking. Now, keep in mind, these are ensemble runs, so they tend to smooth things out as you go forward in time because they tend to feed in some climatology. So it's not likely to see purple, for example, in a week to 10 days out in a forecast from an ensemble run. But let's move forward, and we'll point out some of the biggest changes here. Again, high latitude blocking over northern Canada, Greenland, and here is that ridge of high pressure over the southern U.S. by the time we get into tomorrow. We'll go farther into time, and notice a couple of upper level troughs over the Atlantic Ocean and over the far western part of the nation. We've been pointing that out as a possibility that they will try to kind of join forces, and there'll be really an enhanced jet cutting across the U.S. to the south of that area of higher heights than normal. Now, let's move forward into the upcoming weekend. This is Saturday morning, and notice a reflection here at 500 millibars. This is our first threat for the mid-Atlantic region in coming days, the northeast U.S. Friday night, Saturday time frame. Indications are low pressure will reform off the mid-Atlantic coastline. Exactly where and how quickly it intensifies, details that still need to be ironed out over the next few days, but the potential is there certainly for some snow in the interior sections of the mid-Atlantic region and northeast U.S. Again, Friday night, Saturday time frame. Still have high latitude blocking as of Saturday morning's forecast map here over northern Canada. Now, let's go farther out in time. And notice here again, kind of a joining up of this whole band of upper level trough, and this is a strong upper level jet streak by the time we get to Monday morning. This is next Monday. First of all, notice high latitude blocking still indicated here over northern Canada. Again, it's smoothed out some because we're going farther out into time. So climatology is tending to smooth things out. You won't see purples very often on ensemble forecast maps a week to 10 days out or so. Notice front level trough starting to set up here over the eastern half of the nation. And this is that second threat that I certainly could see for the mid-Atlantic Northeast U.S. come early next week, somewhere maybe Monday, Tuesday time frame. And notice also what happened to that southeast U.S. ridge. It weakened, kind of retrograded a little bit way to the southwestern U.S. We go a little bit farther into time, and here we go all the way a week from this morning to next Tuesday. No ridge in the southeast U.S. Instead, we have a trough over the eastern third of the nation and high latitude blocking still showing up with these oranges here, higher heights than normal, higher pressures than normal. Again, that increases the chance for cold air to penetrate from Canada into the northeast U.S. into the mid-Atlantic region. So big change in the overall weather pattern from now to a week from now. Well, what kind of impact do these height anomalies have, the changes in the 500 millibar height pattern have with respect to temperatures? We're looking at 850 millibar temperature anomalies averaged over 5-day periods. This is the current 5-day period. Not at all surprising to see much higher temperatures than normal at the 850 millibar level over northern Canada, Greenland. That is a reflection of the very, very strong high pressure over this part of North America. Also, high pressure ridging down the southern U.S., higher temperatures than normal. Now, let's move forward here. Again, averaged over 5-day periods. This, for example, right here is days 4 to 8, goes from March 10th to March 15th. And notice, pretty much colder than normal across the entire northern U.S. at this particular time. Let's go out a little bit farther in time, days 5 to 9, days 6 to 10, colder than normal, kind of centered on the mid-Atlantic region at this particular time. This is the middle part of March now, March 12th to March 17th. Again, averaged over a 5-day period. That's pretty impressive indeed. We go all the way out days, days 9 to 13, finally days 10 to 14, and one more run here, days 11 to 15. This is March 17th to March 22nd. Again, warmer than normal over the northern part of Canada, a reflection of that high latitude blocking that continues to persist. Meanwhile, across the U.S., virtually coast to coast cold, colder than normal here. Again, things tend to get smoothed out with time here in an ensemble run. So this is impressive indeed to see basically nationwide below normal temperatures here on the average for this particular 5-day period. So again, on average, we're leading to a colder and colder picture across the nation by the time we get to the middle of the month of March. Now, I wanted to show one other feature with the ensemble run of the European model right here for the initial threat coming early this weekend for the mid-Atlantic Northeast U.S. I'm talking Friday night, Saturday time frame, give or take a little bit. This is the forecast map for midday on Friday, and what we're looking at here is an ensemble run has many, many individual members, and each of these will have a slightly different set of initial conditions. It's done on purpose to kind of alter the temperatures, for example, from one individual member to another, or adjust the water vapor slightly between one member and another. And then rolling forward with the individual members, you get kind of an idea as to whether or not there's a wide variability among the members of the ensemble run, or if there's consensus. And a consensus among individual members of an ensemble run really give you confidence in the overall forecast for that particular scenario. Well, this is the ensemble run, the various locations of low pressure as of Friday, midday on Friday. We'll go a little bit farther in time, and here we go. By the time we get to Saturday morning, pretty good agreement amongst the European ensemble runs for low pressure to first move up into the Ohio Valley, as we saw a moment ago here with this particular forecast map right here, midday on Friday, to a reformation over the western Atlantic. This is off the mid-Atlantic coastline by Saturday morning. Pretty good agreement that there may be a low pressure area right in this region right here as of Saturday morning. So it's something we'll monitor. By the way, how do the other ensemble models look for the same time period. Let's, in fact, go to the GFS model here. This is the ensemble run of the GFS. This is Saturday morning at same time as the European model. It too has low pressure areas kind of centered. This is the mean of all these different locations here, right here off the Mid-Atlantic coastline. Certainly something of interest, something we'll have to closely monitor over the next couple of days. Finally, let's look at the Canadian model. This is the ensemble members of the Canadian model from 0Z last night. Also, a reflection of low pressure scattered about, but nonetheless pretty much centered over the Western Atlantic, just off the Mid-Atlantic coastline. So really some agreement amongst different models, the Canadian, the European, and the GFS ensemble runs for some kind of low pressure reformation over the Mid-Atlantic coastline or just off the Mid-Atlantic coastline by early Saturday, something we'll certainly closely monitor over the next few days. Well, let's wrap up with the operational run. The prior models were ensemble runs. This is the operational run of the Canadian model from 0Z. By the way, all of these maps available at tropicaltidbits.com. We had low pressure that caused some snow across upstate PA last night, even accumulating snow upstate PA all the way into west central part of New Jersey. That races off the coast this morning. Winds pick up in intensity, 40 plus mile per hour wind gusts later today into tonight. DC, Philadelphia, New York City. Really, those strong winds continue right through the day on Wednesday. Now, let's move forward here. Notice this tight pressure gradient, again, between incoming high pressure over Canada and the departing low pressure well over the waters of the Atlantic Ocean by later today. This is, by this evening, a tight pressure gradient, strong winds throughout the Mid-Atlantic, Northeast U.S., and those winds really last into Wednesday. This is Wednesday morning. Still, these black lines represent lines of equal pressure, isobars. The tighter they are, the stronger the winds. This is still pretty tight pressure gradient. Expect to feel some strong winds on Wednesday as well. DC, Philadelphia, New York City, maybe not quite as strong as later today or tonight, but nonetheless a noticeable factor on Wednesday. Then we get towards the latter part of the week, and here's again the Canadian operational run for Friday morning. And remember, we said it looks like a primary low, an initial low goes up to the Ohio Valley. Well, that's what's going on right here with this particular model run. But then there will be a reformation off the East Coast by Saturday. Here we go. We go from this forecast map for late Friday night to this by early Saturday morning. So the initial primary low tends to weaken. The upward motion in the atmosphere tends to shift from the northern Ohio Valley to off the Mid-Atlantic coastline, and there is a new development at the surface level here of low pressure here come Saturday morning. So cold enough for snow across much of Pennsylvania, southern New York, and then this will move to the north and east and intensify. Certainly something we'll monitor closely over the next few days. It is not set in stone. It is right now certainly a threat for the Mid-Atlantic region, Northeast U.S. Friday night, Saturday. This is the midday Saturday forecast map. Let's go out a couple more days and look at that intensification here. That's why this really deserves some attention over the next couple of days. It can intensify rapidly. All it would take a little bit of a shift west here from this forecast map to have a bigger impact on the I-95 corridor, for example. This is Saturday evening. Then we go a little farther in time, and remember, we talked about a potential second threat coming early next week. This is the late Sunday night, early Monday morning forecast map, again, using the 0Z run of the Canadian model. And again, a primary low moves up to the Ohio Valley, and then cold enough for some snow in parts of Pennsylvania and New York come Monday morning. Eventually, the action shifts to the Mid-Atlantic coastline. Here we go by Monday evening, cold enough for snow across the interior northeastern U.S., maybe some rain across parts of Pennsylvania. So again, kind of a similar situation on the table here for the Mid-Atlantic, Northeast U.S. late this week into the early part of the weekend, and again early next week, namely low pressure. Primary low pressure goes up to the Ohio Valley, and a second system will then take over off the Mid-Atlantic coastline. Again, two shots at this coming up early this weekend and in the early part of next week. So stay tuned certainly over the next few days to arcfieldweather.com. Even later on today, we ought to have an update on this evolving weather pattern that brings some colder air to much of the nation over the next couple of weeks, and an active pattern as well with multiple threats on the way for the eastern states. That's it for now. For arcfieldweather.com, this has been meteorologist Paul Dorian.